Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're taking a look at some of the most disturbing confessions made on Reddit. A little disclaimer before we begin. This video might contain some disturbing content that may be upsetting to some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Alright, let's begin. I served dangerous food to my family and didn't say anything. This happened over 15 years ago, when I was about 13 to 14, I think. Growing up, my parents were great about making me and my siblings share part of the responsibility of making meals for the family. So a few times a month, I'd be responsible for making a meal for my parents. Me, my brothers, and my sister. As long as we made a decent edible meal that didn't need outrageous ingredients, our parents would usually let us make whatever we wanted, because we were responsible for all the prep and cleanup. One of my go-to meals was burgers and fries. Eventually, I learned to grill them, but for a long time, I would make them with frozen patties. I know that's probably gross to a lot of people, but it was an economical way to make a lot of them already at once. We would get packages of them at the bulk grocery store, and I'd actually bake them in the oven on sheet pans while I made all the fixins and the fries, toasted the buns, etc. The problem was that while the patties did have little pieces of paper between them, they were usually still frozen stuck together. I'd have to bang them apart or more often use something to pry them apart. Most times I'd use a butter knife, lightly tap it in between them and lever them apart. Sometimes they were really stuck good, and I'd have to wiggle the knife a lot. Sometimes I'd accidentally stab into the patty instead of between them without realizing it. On the night in question, for some reason I'll never know, instead of using a regular butter knife, I grabbed a small, serrated utility knife that I'd been using for something else. I tapped it in, pop one off, peel and toss the papers, tap it in, pop one off, etc., until I had all of them ready and on the baking sheets. I made, I think, 10 burgers that night for the 6 of us. Once they were cooking, I started getting the rest of it all ready, and I looked at the knife and realized first with idle curiosity, and later with dawning horror, that the sharp tip of the knife had snapped. Off at some point in the separation process. At first I was just worried that I'd ruined the knife. But then I realized it was possible the tiny shard of metal was actually lodged inside one of these burgers. I froze, not really sure what to do. There were other people in the kitchen, and so I quickly moved and casually hid the knife so nobody would notice the tip. Then I tried to sort of furtively check the prep area, the counter, the floor, hoping I'd find it. No luck. I couldn't check the burgers. They were already cooking. It would look crazy to take them back out now and try to inspect them. I thought it must be in with the little papers I'd already thrown away. But there was no way to be sure without revealing the error and letting everyone know what I'd done. I couldn't admit what I did. I was sure we'd have to throw away the whole meal, and my dad would be pissed. But I also couldn't be sure it was or wasn't in one of the burgers. So, I did nothing. I'm ashamed to admit I just hoped for the best and prepared the rest of the meal. All the while there was a screaming a dialogue in my head trying to prepare myself for one of my family biting into a shard of metal. Maybe it would stab their gums and they'd have blood coming out of their mouth. Maybe they'd choke on it, or it would get lodged inside their throat, causing their stomach to fill up with their own blood. I was panicking internally and hid the incriminating knife in a plastic Coke bottle and then tossed that in the trash. Weeks later, we'd all wonder out loud, "Hey, where is that little knife anyway? Who had it last? Do you know OP? No? So strange." When time came to serve, I was a mess inside. I felt awful and guilty, but was also too ashamed to admit it. And I'd already thrown away the knife, so now I was officially in too deep. Nothing left to do now but serve them and hope to God everything would be okay. Secretly, I hoped I would get the knife piece. I would at least be sure where it was, and I could then carefully chew around it and dispose of it. I chewed so carefully while the rest, especially my older brothers, wolfed theirs down. My mom routinely mentioned at mealtimes that the sign of a good dinner was silence, because it meant everyone's mouths were full. But for me, I was like a hawk, watching every little thing everyone did. When I just started in on my second burger, my little sister made a loud noise. Not a dramatic scream, but just a weird, muffled ouch, squeak type noise. My mom asked if she was okay, and she didn't seem upset, just confused, and looked puzzled, chewing around her bite slowly. Then she swallowed and said, "I thought there was something in it, but I guess not." The rest of the meal passed uneventfully. I thought I'd be relieved, but instead I had visions of this tiny blade slicing up my sister's insides all night, and her having to go to the hospital for internal bleeding. I kept watching her all night after dinner, and any slight discomfort had me sweating. Eventually, enough time passed, and she never was the worse for it, as far as I know. I guess I don't really know she swallowed it, but in my heart I think she did. And I let her because I was too chicken shit to just speak up and be responsible for my mistake. Even if we'd thrown out all the burgers, it would have been better than hurting my family. We could have just eaten sandwiches that night, or cold cereal. And the guilt of knowing that I'd done it and been so negligent really messed with me for years. It kind of ruined cooking for me for a couple years. But I will say, it also made me keenly vigilant about food safety and cleanliness around food. And I guess that's not so bad. I'm so sorry, Mal. Most every other day I loved you so much. But I was a shitty big brother that day. All of us were supposed to protect you, and I let you down that night. I stole my neighbor's dog. For about 3 years, my neighbors have been running a pit bull puppy mill from their backyard. Every couple of months, it seems like there is a new litter of puppies, and the mother has gotten so aggressive, it's broken our fence multiple times and has even attacked my dog, which led to me breaking my hand, defending my dog. Their dogs constantly run loose all over the neighborhood and are very aggressive, which also makes me concerned for my 2 young children's, 1 and 3, safety. While it's all annoying, it's not illegal. So we've tried talking to them and filing a complaint with the HOA. But it turns out my neighbor is the president of the HOA. So any complaint is over before it's even filed. Today, when I got home from picking up my fiancé from work, there were 3 dogs in between my house and the neighbors. 2 were aggressively barking, and the 3rd ran up to me and hopped in my arms. I instantly noticed that the dog looked emaciated, but the longer I kept looking, the worse it got. Dried blood covering both its ears, an open wound on its neck oozing pus, a horrible smell, a dull coat with bald spots, a chunk missing from its nose, and over 60 bite marks. This dog is only maybe 10 weeks old at most. They came looking for him, but I lied because I couldn't, in good conscience, hand that poor baby back to the people who did that. Animal control was closed, so I called the non-emergency line about 5 hours ago, and no one has shown up. And it's near midnight, so I doubt they will. They do know I have the dog, and let me know I won't get in trouble since the dog showed clear signs of severe abuse. Part of me feels bad for taking the dog and watching my neighbors look for their dog, and part of me hopes that they lose sleep over this. They seem worried about their dog, but I think they're worried about getting caught more than anything. Honestly, fuck them. I didn't think I could hate a family I don't even know. I showed my family how to pleasure myself as a kid, and it's still haunting me at 30. So, when I was around 10 or 11, I stumbled onto something that felt incredible, innocently, of course. It was during a big family gathering, Thanksgiving, or maybe a birthday. I can't quite recall. The house was buzzing with relatives, aunts gossiping, uncles arguing about football, cousins running around, and me, this curious little kid, just wandering near the dining room table. That's when it happened. I brushed up against the corner of the table in just the right way, and holy fuck, this jolt of pure, secret bliss shot through me. I'd discovered something amazing, I figured. In my innocent, pre-teen brain, I didn't think, this is private. Nope. I thought, everyone needs to know about this right now. So, picture this. I climbed up onto a chair, gathered my family around like I was about to unveil a magic trick, and said, "Hey, I've got a secret to show you." They all shuffled over, probably expecting something cute or silly. Instead, I hoisted myself up, positioned my vagina right on the table corner, and started rubbing myself against it, back and forth, grinning ear to ear. "See? It feels super good," I announced, like I'd just invented sliced bread. The reaction? Instant chaos. Dead silence at first, like you could hear a pin drop. Then my mom's face went beet red. My dad coughed and looked at the ceiling, and my aunt started muttering excuses to leave the room. My cousins just gawked, some giggling, others confused. Someone yanked me off the table so fast I almost fell, and the adults scrambled to change the subject. I didn't get why everyone was freaking out. To me, I'd just shared a cool life hack. Fast forward to this week. I'm 30 now, living my adult life, when my older brother decides to drop a bomb at family dinner. "Hey, remember that time you gave us the table demo?" he says, smiling like a fool. The whole table erupts in laughter, and I'm sitting there, fork frozen midair, feeling that same hot wave of embarrassment crash over me. It's been decades, and I still wanted to melt into the floor. I can laugh about it now, kinda. But there's still this lingering cringe that won't quit. I mean, who does that? I guess it's taught me to keep some secrets to myself. But fuck, that memory hits hard. Posting this here feels like a way to finally shake it off. Anyone else got a childhood mortification that still creeps up on them? Or can relate to me in literally any way? Please. That's all for today, ladies and gentlemen. Feel free to share your thoughts about these stories in the comment section below. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of this type of content. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, stay safe.